Greg McMillan here. Let me walk you through my guide to returning to training after illness. Let's first start by walking through the sick runner timeline. Phase 1, this is the first couple of days that you see over here on this graph. That's where you can feel an illness coming on. You're still running, maybe even doing some workouts, but you get a sense that you're about to be sick. Scratchy throat, congestion, cough, fever, muscle soreness that doesn't seem to be related to training, and just overall tiredness. The next phase, of course, is what you see here, day kind of 3 to 7. This is when you're maximally sick. Lots of symptoms. It's really not fun. The body is working very hard to fight the illness. And that's what you see here, sort of days 3 to 7, the maximum feeling of those symptoms. And then we get to phase 3. That's what you see over here on the right-hand side of the graph, where the symptoms are decreasing. Your training can then begin to ramp up. You may not be 100% healthy, but you're on the way to being healthier. Now, after going through this sort of sick runner timeline, let's talk about what you do during the period when you do have your maximum symptoms and then those begin to subside. How do you adjust your training? Let me go through what I've used very successfully with lots of runners when they have an illness coming on. As I mentioned in phase 1, this is where you're still training. You're not quite sick, but you can tell you're getting sick. You want to prepare to rest. Go ahead and accept, and that's what I say here at the end, accept that your training is probably going to have to change if you do get sick. You want to go ahead and buy lots of healthy food and drink because you know you want to take care of your body and buy any medicines you may need, but mostly accept that your training may have to change. Now, in the next part, phase 2 here, this is when, as you can see from this graph, this is when you're having your maximum symptoms. This is when you really don't feel good. And what you need to do from a training standpoint is rest, particularly in these first couple of days, days 3, 4, and maybe even 5 on this graph. That's when you're feeling those maximum symptoms. You want to rest. Your body's working really hard. Immune system is fighting a battle against something. We want to rest so that all the energy can go into getting over this illness quickly so we can get back to training. No running, particularly in these first couple of days when you're really, really sick. But then later you can do some very short, easy runs, 15 to 30 minutes as those symptoms begin to subside. That can actually boost the immune system. But in the beginning, we need to focus on rest. No hard workouts, obviously. We don't do anything that really overstresses the body. Focus on nutrition and hydration. Good vibes are important, so don't get too down on yourself about missing training. Lots of funny shows and movies can really help the immune system recover. And again, always respect that the immune system is working very, very hard during this period of time. So that's sort of days 3 to 7 during maximum illness. Probably no running early. A couple of short, easy runs may be okay as you start to feel better. Now let's get into phase 3. This is when the symptoms are starting to decrease. You start to feel better. You're itching to get back to your training program. Let's talk about how to do that. You can resume your normal frequency once the symptoms begin to subside. For 1 to 3 days, just get back on your normal rhythm. If you run Monday, Wednesday, Friday, then start running Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Just kind of get back in the rhythm. But these will only be short immune boosting runs, 15 to 30 minutes, very, very easy. We're not ready to jump quite back into your training plan yet. That's in this sort of early stage of feeling better. Now, what we really want to get to is the late stage, and this is when the symptoms are really decreasing and you now can resume your full training frequency and your full volume. You're going to be open to modulating your training so you don't overdo it, but it's time to get back into your training rhythm. You can even resume workouts. You just may want to reduce the volume or the intensity or the timing. So for example, if you just ran a couple of days and started to feel better, you wouldn't want to do a hard workout on the third day. Push it a couple of days later is probably the smart thing to do. I see a lot of athletes make the mistake of trying to make up these workouts that they miss. They add more workouts to their training plan. That's a big no-no. We want to respect the normal training cycle. We may take those workouts you missed if they're ones that you really are really important or you really like and swap them for future workouts. But don't feel like you need to make up or add in those workouts that you miss. That will change the stress-rest cycle. Now let's look at an actual example of how this may work. So on the left-hand side, I have the planned training for this athlete. This is an athlete getting ready for a half marathon. So you can see Tuesday to Sunday in week 10 and then all of week 11. We had tempo intervals on Thursday, a long run on Sunday, speed workout the next Thursday, and then a fast finish long run on this Sunday. Now let's say on Tuesday and Wednesday, the athlete started to feel sick, those first 2 days that we noticed on the left-hand side of that graph. Now what we're going to do is on Thursday, we're going to take 2 days off. We're feeling really sick. We want to take those days off and rest. Saturday and Sunday, here are those 2 immune boosting runs, just getting back in the rhythm. Again, you normally run on Saturday and Sunday, so you do a couple of easy runs, but again, very short. You're not jumping back into your training routine. Monday is an off day. That's very helpful coming off of this schedule. And then now we're in the late stage, so we begin to sync back up. On Tuesday, we have an easy run of 60 to 80 minutes coming off an illness. That would probably be 45 to 50 minutes. Again, a little reduction and listening to the body, respecting the work that it just went through to defeat this illness. Wednesday's an off or cross-training day. We probably keep that and make a decision whether you would take it off, cross-train or run, depending on how you're feeling. And then on Thursday, this is where we had originally a speed workout. Now, since we just did the immune system runs and then we're just getting back into training, probably want to slide that workout a day if you can so that you give the body a little bit more recovery. Or if you really wanted to do this tempo interval workout that you missed because you got sick, you might do this workout on this day instead of the speed workout. That's the way any of those workouts that you missed, you can swap them for future training. Saturday, I would actually take that day off since we slid the workout to Friday. And then if you felt good, hopefully now you are feeling good. You've beat the illness. You're feeling almost like yourself again. You can actually do this fast finish long run. Now, you may just run that long run easy if you're still feeling a little tired. You might move this to Monday if you're still feeling a little tired, or skip it altogether if you feel like, boy, I still need a little bit more rest. But for most people with just a regular cold that happens the middle of the week prior, this schedule will usually get them back on track. They miss a little bit of training. They have to shift a little bit of training. But after this week 11, you're probably 100% back on your training program. So I hope that's helpful just to kind of see how you might have to adjust your training when illness happens. Now let's look at the next thing. What I've just described is what I would call a normal illness. This is a bad cold, something that only lasts a few days. As you saw in that graph, we've got it comes on, you really peak out for 3 or 4 days, and then the illness subsides. If that's the case, then you'll lose about a week of training, but just follow the guidelines I've presented, and you can get back into your training like I just showed, and you'll be good to go for the future. Now, what about if you have to miss more training? Let's say instead of a week, your illness lasts 2 to 3 weeks. What do you do in that case? you kind of follow the same guidelines, but you just extend everything. So the running phase where you just started running again, we would extend that. So instead of 1 to 3 days of easy running, you'll do 4 to 10 days of easy running. So again, respecting you've had 2 to 3 weeks of downtime or very little running, ease back into it. And then after you get through that, you can follow the guidelines again, return to your full volume, but be open to modulating it. Gradually introduce workouts back into your program. Again, you may reduce the amount that you do. You may slide them. In fact, let me go back to this and even show you something I didn't mention. In this speed workout, you'll notice it was planned for 4 to 6 times 1200. After being sick, I'd probably only do 2 to 4. That makes sense, right? You're getting the workout in, but you're just reducing the volume. And if you wanted to use this tempo interval workout, it was 2 to 3 times 2 miles. After being sick, 1 to 3 times 2 miles. And the same thing I mentioned on the fast finish long run. You might reduce the volume of it, change the intensity of it. That's something that's really easy to do and makes a big difference in your training. So again, if you have to miss a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks with kind of a medium illness, kind of follow these same guidelines, but just extend it a little bit. Now, this is the big one. If you have to miss a lot of training, let's say you get very ill, you miss 4 to 12 weeks, 1 to 3 months of training. In that case, you just need to start over. I definitely recommend you go to your base plan and let's just get a month or 2 of consistent training at a moderate level so that you're never overstressed, and let's begin to rebuild your fitness. We just have to accept that if we lose that much training. So to summarize, a big part of coming back from being ill is, number one, accepting that you're going to have to miss training. The athletes that try to squeeze in the training or train when they're not quite ready, they have a lower quality of training and they delay the recovery from the illness. Second is make a plan. Hopefully seeing this video and seeing that example shows you how you can go ahead and look ahead at your training plan and say, okay, I'm going to shift this around. I'm going to slide this. I'm going to reduce this workout. I'm going to swap this workout. Go ahead and make a plan. That way you feel like you're in control of your training instead of missing your training. And listen to your body as always. If it's saying, I'm still sick, I'm still tired, then don't do anything extensive. Really help it recover. Focus on rest. The last thing that I have to say is it will be okay. Illness happens all the time. It just happened to me a few weeks ago. I just had to accept I needed to modify my training, get over the illness as quick as possible, be smart about my return to training, and now I feel great. And even if you're in a training cycle, getting ready for a race, and you miss a little bit of training, don't worry about it. It happens a lot. You hear a lot of even the pro athletes going to the Olympics. They get sick 2 weeks before the Olympics and they still have a great race. So it will all be okay. So there's my guide to returning to training after you're sick. Hope it never happens, but if it does, at least now you've got a guide of how to get back to your training program. As always, let me know if you have any questions. Take care, and I'll see you again real soon.